Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, that podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today in the beautiful city of Roseville, Michigan, on grievance number 230, I do want to make an announcement. On, on June 6th, with the first Saturday of June, we're going to be having Bill Heller. He is running for trustee for the NALC, not under any particular slate. That would be Bill Heller running for trustee for the National NALC. We're going to be having him on for his candidacy for the trustee position. And please, if you have any questions, send them to my email, rosevillewreckingball@yahoo.com. Once again, if I get too many questions, we'll have to do what we can to get them all. I'm going to do my best to ask all questions. I don't filter my questions. I just want you to know that. I take a journalistic approach. It's going to be objective, so I'm just going to ask any and all questions. This is Mr. Bill Heller. He's running for NALC trustee. So send those questions to rosevillewreckingball@yahoo.com. But you know the drill. It is Wrecking Crew Wednesday. I know it's on a Thursday, but yes, that beautiful Wrecking Crew. And if you don't know what that is, those are members of our Patreon. They get to choose the topic every Wednesday. Today's topic is CCAs on loan to another office and the utilization of 1723s for that process. So without further ado, we will go on to that topic. But first, let's recognize these badass individuals for their participation in the Wrecking Crew. That is Rick Steiner, E.R., Tom Perry, Philip DeGilio, Chris Angeloff, Amy Tyvan, Ryan Ackers, Edmund DeVore, Miziel Guzman, Paul Saranowski, Jamie Gregory, Neil Beckman, Shannon Mossbarger, Kenneth Grigsby, Benjamin Shellhaas, Joni Weber, Stillstacks, Self-Care, G. Whiskey, Daniel Pitts, Mark Allen Kennedy II, Jason Munn, David Grosskopf, Unfortunate VP, and for their contributions to the GoFundMe. We're also going to add in Abraham Askar, Corey Walton, Tyler Christopher, and Lino Miranda as honorable Wrecking Crew members. So, I appreciate you guys for supporting the podcast. And we will move on to the topic after I tell you first. Next Wednesday will be the first Wednesday where we will be having our Wrecking Crew roundtable, which is going to be any member of the Wrecking Crew. All 28 members can decide to be part of this roundtable Zoom event. I'll likely be having it at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That way people can do overtime and hopefully get to the Zoom and be a part of it. But yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. There's going to be rules. There's going to be maybe 5 or 3 minute speaking time. We're going to have several questions. We're going to talk about a particular topic that's selected by the Wrecking Crew. And then from there on, I'll ask a question, go around the table, and you can say whatever you want about the subject. But yeah, we're going to get on to the main topic, though. CCAs on loan to another office. So if you didn't already know, 1723s are used whenever you have a change in something that's on your Form 50 that's temporary, a temporary detail. That's usually utilized most commonly. We know about that because it's in Article 41, and it's something that management has to give the union prior to the temporary detail of a 204B. City carrier assistants, CCAs, when temporarily assigned to duties in other postal facilities, also shall have PS Form 1723 to accompany their assignment. President Rolando signed M 1827 with the Postal Service regarding the temporary assignment of CCAs outside their employing office to another post office. Now, the provisions of the MOU read as follows. 1. CCAs will normally work in their employing office, but may be assigned to work in another post office in the local area. Handbook F15, Section 7-1.1.1.1. Within the same district, on an occasional basis, the assignment may be for a partial day or several consecutive days, depending on local circumstances. Sunday CCA work assignments are not subject to the occasional basis limitation. Temporary assignments must otherwise be consistent with the national agreement. Assigning CCAs to work outside their employing office may not violate Article 7.1.c.4 in the temporary office or the letter carrier paragraph in the employing office. Management will schedule CCAs to work in other post offices in advance of the reporting date whenever practicable. When a need arises to temporarily assign CCAs outside of their employing office, management will, to the extent practicable, use volunteer CCAs from the delivery unit providing assistance as long as the volunteers will be in a similar pay status. If sufficient volunteers are not found, CCAs from the delivering unit providing assistance will be temporarily assigned to the other installation in reverse relative standing order whenever practicable, as long as the junior CCAs are in a similar pay status. CCAs who are required or volunteer to work outside their employing office may receive payment for mileage for the difference between their residence and the employing office, provided the difference is greater. Handbook F15, Section 7-1.1.1.2.d. All right, so while the language sets clear parameters on the temporary assignments of CCAs to other offices, management must meet other requirements when loaning any employee to another postal facility other than the employee's duty station. Section 423 of the F21 clearly requires management to fill out a PS Form 1723 when an employee is temporarily assigned to another duty station. So that reads, loaned hours is time worked at a postal facility other than the employee's official duty station. With the exception of installation heads, the employee's official duty station is normally the facility which keeps the employee's official personnel folder. Loaned hours do not include work at stations or branches within the same finance number. There are no eligibility requirements because loaned hours is simply an accounting of the hours charged to payroll accounts. Loaned hours should not be recorded when employees are assigned to a regional office or other installation to instruct or to receive training, authorization, and supporting PS forms. Whenever an employee is temporarily assigned to a facility other than his official duty station, a PS Form 1723 assignment order must be prepared in duplicate by the employee's supervisor directing the employee to perform the duties of the assigned position. All right, so this would apply to CCAs when loaned to another office, of course. PS Form 1723 follows the explanation given in F21 for temporary assignments. According to the instructions attached to PS Form 723, it is an assignment order filled out by managers to record assignment changes. So that would read, purpose, complete this form to record management-directed assignments changing, involving temporary duties assigned to perform duties other than those in the employee's official job description, including higher level and training assignments. Scheduled hours and or days off when schedule change is not posted. Frequency, prepare the new form for each accounting period. Approval. Assignments and changes may be approved by immediate supervisor. signatures. If employee is unavailable to sign, the supervisor should indicate and also identify how the employee was notified in the signature space. When management temporarily assigns a CCA voluntarily or involuntarily to work in another office for any period of time, a PS Form 1723 should be completed. PS Form 1723 for loan CCAs may be helpful in Article 8 cases in either the loaned office or the duty station. But just remember that these documents are not automatically given to you. Stewards should request this information via Article 1731 and request the documents whenever the CCAs are being loaned out to another office. This is also a good thing to request when you have Article 17 violations where they didn't provide you enough time, because you can use the argument that the CCA was required to be at their original office because there were other things that were hurt by it, like it created an Article 17 violation, because had they been at your office, they could have taken work off of you in order to get your steward time done. Keeping managers on their toes regarding the loaning of CCAs should help CCAs understand how long their detail to another office will be and provide the union with the necessary information to ensure compliance with the national agreement. Now remember this, though. If you're going to file a grievance on this case, the harm is not typically to the CCA. If the CCA is unaware of how long their detail is, that could be easy to articulate that the harm is to the CCA. But consistently, at least I've seen at my office, the harm is to the union. The union is not to be provided with one by default unless you otherwise sign an agreement that would allow for that. But the way it hurts the union is it helps us understand, if they filled out a 1723, it helps us understand violations. Like I said, Article 8, maybe a CCA could have prevented other Article 8 violations from occurring. Like I said before, M document 1827 does particularly state that, CCAs who are, temporary assignments must otherwise be consistent with the national agreement. So, if they are violating the national agreement when they send them, that is in violation of 1827, which is incorporated under Article 19. Also, don't forget to file a grievance if they're not getting CCAs the opportunity to volunteer, or if they're sending them not by seniority. Of course, that does not include the guys who are on a bid. They can't break a bid for that reason unless it's the last person. There are situations where it might be supported, but for the most part, I would not recommend allowing them to break a bid. Now, I did find two particular arbitrations in which I'd like to cite. The first one's C document 32104. In this case, the arbitrator, let's see what the arbitrator was. Arbitrator Braverman, Toby Braverman, and this was out of Rockville, MD. And on page 8, we find bad news. This arbitrator actually said the union did not prove a violation. And I'm going to read the reason why. And it's particularly because they didn't articulate the harm correctly. It says the union also urges that the employer violated the agreement by failing to provide the agreement with a Form 1723. As the employer notes, however, that form is used for purposes of timekeeping in offices which do not utilize tax. There is no need for the Form 1723, which is used to track hours and pay when tax is in use. When the timekeeper manual does not make it clear that the form is not used in that situation, there is no evidence presented to demonstrate that it is routinely used in Rockville, which has been under the tax since 2001. Further, there was no evidence whatsoever to demonstrate that the agreement was in any way affected by the failure to provide her with Form 1723. She was properly paid for her hours worked, while the union argued the form provides it with the potentially relevant information. must be noted that nowhere in Section 423 is it required that a copy of the form be provided to the union at the time that the employee is assigned. While the employer must provide it to the union upon a request as part of the processing of a grievance, the same information is available by requesting tax records. Since the employer has no obligation to provide the form at the time of its creation, and since all the relevant information contained in Form 1723 can be gleaned in tax records, there is no harm to the union by virtue of failure to complete a form which is essentially obsolete for those offices which utilize tax. I would argue that this arbitrator is wrong. This was a poor decision, but this is going to demonstrate to you guys the importance of harm. In this case, the union did demonstrate, they at least tried to articulate that they were provided harm and the grievant. In this case, the arbitrator was not swayed. He said there was no harm, and for some reason, management convinced them that this was not needed. Now, I would use the argument that the Postal Service uses controlling documents for such things. You cannot just say tax is good enough, because tax has human error. The controlling document is a 1723 for any detail that is other than what is on your Form 50, and that is articulated in the handbooks that were cited earlier. So that was a perfect example of the arbitrator not being convinced by the harm that this use of a 1723 was providing the union. Now, in another case, in C33717, this was by arbitrator Harris. I think she took a different approach, and I'm going to read out of that arbitration to give you an idea of what this arbitrator had decided. The union contends that CCAs work at other post offices on more than a temporary or occasional basis. Shop steward such and such testified that he had a difficult time keeping up with where CCAs were working because they sometimes are assigned to one post office and then directly are assigned to another post office, never even coming back to the Lynbrook post office. He alleged that he could not properly perform his duties as steward since he did not know where some of the CCAs were. He also stated that when he requested the Form 1723s, which give this information, they were denied. Postmaster testified that the various contractual documents do not require that the union receive Form 1723. Additionally, she contends that the steward never submitted any requests for information for the 1723s. Finally, she stated that the information on Form 1723 is available online, so the union can obtain it with little difficulty. It is evident to me that the smooth running of a labor management relation is in the interest of both parties. In the particular circumstances of the Lynbrook Post Office, this can best be assured by keeping the steward in the loop. This can be best accomplished on a routine basis by providing the union with a Form 1723 when the CCA is temporarily assigned away from the Lynbrook Post Office. However, so as to not overburden management with paperwork, it is reasonable that the Form 1723 be provided to the union only when the CCA is away from the Lynbrook Post Office for a period of time. Thus, I rule that when a CCA is temporarily assigned away from the Lynbrook Post Office for 4 consecutive workdays, management must promptly provide the union with a completed 1723. So that was a partially upheld grievance, but it was great because the arbitrator didn't fall for management shit in this case. And I guess the union did a great job convincing her that, convincing him, it's the arbitrator's a man, convincing the arbitrator that they did a great job convincing them that there was harm. And sometimes you got to provide them with cases that you've had to build, but then realize that the controlling document showed that the CCA was somewhere else. Sometimes you have to have failures to show an arbitrator, look, this is what happens when we don't have a controlling document. We fail. And it's my burden to prove, and that is why there's a harm here. Now, obviously, I would say that when you file these grievances, if there's a harm to this CCA, put that in there too, of course, if there is one. I'm actually currently going through one right now where I have a CCA, 2 CCAs who have been on our rolls, who are being given two different instructions. Like they've worked at another office, a neighboring office, for a number of months, and so every once in a while they'll tell them to come here for instructions, and then my post office will tell them never to come back, and then the other one will tell them to come back. So that's where harm can be provided for the CCA, because in that case, where are they to be? Where are they supposed to be? And to not know your schedule is completely asinine. Don't articulate it like that to Step B, or an arbitrator, but you know what I mean. I'm going to let you go for now. I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure because my management team is messing with me in terms of no longer extending grievances. So I have a large caseload that may need to be done in the next few days. So if I don't seem present as I normally am, it might be the reason why. I might have to do a tremendous amount of work off the clock and file to get paid for that. But hopefully you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day out there.
These guys are getting educated. We will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievous genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the Mailman's Playbook, brother.